Hi, I'm Nancy D. Miller on location in the Zoller's house with Peter Yarrow. How are you, Peter?
Well, I am filled with, I'm looking out the window over there, with awe at the circumstance in which I've found myself. Every day I get up and I look and I see the nature of the surround, and it's most remarkable and most beautiful here. Every day, except for today, which is my last day here, I've been going skiing, and the kids have been, Bethany and Christopher, with their friends, and I've loved doing that. But the most interesting thing that I've been puzzling out and dealing with is the unusual nature of the Telluride town, what it is, what its struggle is.
We're all wondering that.
Yeah, it's trying to, from the outside point of view, look at not being really involved in it, except very peripherally. Telluride is a place that's trying very much to walk the line between the necessities of a certain kind of society that surrounds us in this world and the hopes of a different kind of world in which there is a different kind of creativity, a different kind of attention to the environment, and a different kind of respect for other possibilities, including human interactions. And that's a tough one to crack.
Mm-hmm.
People who live in other environments pretty much make their peace with it and say, that's New York. I know when I get on the subway, something's going to be horrifically difficult, very angry, crabby, potentially dangerous. That's the way it is. I know that there's going to be a lot of stress, anxiety on the streets, and that there's going to be great beauty in the concert halls or in the Metropolitan Museum. And I accept that dichotomy. Here, the dichotomous reality, the two sides, are really, I think, engaged in a real battle with each other. But a battle that is honestly trying to find a better resolution than the kinds that have been found elsewhere. And to me, being up here, I felt when I sang a sense of community between the people that was, for a moment, at least a confirmation that down deep, everybody really wants to just put their arms around each other and say, we're here together.
No question about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to know how you got here. Did Richard Lowenberg find you?
Well, no, not exactly. I've been here 3 times before. I sang at the Sheridan Opera about 7 years ago, and then I came back another year, or it was 8 years ago. Came back for a second. Where was I? We were talking about.
You were saying that you had been here 8 years ago, and then
or 10 years ago, 7 years ago, and I'd sung here at the Sheridan Opera House, and I sensed at the time the deep pride of the people that I met in their really powerful attempt to say, we're going to build a community that respects the environment, where everybody's pulling together to make sense out of the need for development on the one hand, which I understand. This is the way I see it. Maybe I'm simplistic. That if Telluride is to maintain its economy in some kind of way, it's got to, in some kind of way, be competitive with other destination resort areas, or people won't come here. You won't be able to sustain the lifts and the pay for the expense of running a mountain, and it'll simply be out of the running. In order for it to expand, there have to be more people here. And in order for it to be maintained, there have to be more people here to cover the costs. And so there must be some development. But the question is, so that is an imperative.
No question.
But the question is how? And the question is, in what way, in what style? What kind of people to attract? What kind of price tag to put on their lifestyle when they're here? And how to maintain a sense of a real humanity within the context of the town, even as it expands. Does the town become, in my mind, simply the servant of these people who take vacations here or buy condominiums here and visit them a few times a year in a time-sharing way? Or is there a presence in the town that allows the development to proceed in such a way that there's a sensitivity to the land, to the type of person who comes here, to the style that exists? Or do we wind up in another decade in Telluride with a situation with a lot of people who have a lot of money and a lot of people serving that money and very angry and virtually some kind of antagonistic war, so that all those attempts to have film festivals and governor's cups and bluegrass festivals and idea festivals have not set the tone. What has set the tone is the almighty dollar in the end. This is the dilemma, and not an easy one to figure out.
How do you see that it has gone in the 10 years that you've been visiting?
Well, I still think it's great. I think it's a great experiment. I think, like any growth circumstance, there are growing pains. But I've met so many remarkable people who've managed to keep, who love the sense of what Telluride is, and who are not overwhelmed with a sense of being destroyed or loss by the necessity for development and change in one sense or another, and have held the line. I think, for instance, Richard Lowenberg is a perfect example. He's extraordinary, and he's very, very gifted.
He is an unbelievable asset to this community.
Yeah, and his warmth and his truthful reality. For instance, Patty and Rod Templin, Patty runs the Montessori school. I was there the other day singing for the children, mostly preschool kids, and they took a globe and put it on a stand and had a ceremony in which they did something for peace. And Patty, who is the teacher there, and wonderful, asked one of the children, how do we do something for peace? How do we achieve peace? And one of the children raised his hand and said, by loving the other children of the whole world. So they looked at the globe, and they concentrated. Oh, and they had a candle that was lit. And they concentrated by holding hands and being silent and loving the children of the whole world. It's a very moving little ceremony.
Precious.
Yeah, and Rod has that kind of consciousness. And there are other people that I've met. I met Rick, what's Rick's last name? I can't remember his last name right now. I have it upstairs, and it's funny. It's a Steen, I think.
I know who it is. I know exactly who it is, too.
Yeah.
He's a good friend of mine.
Silverman.
Silverman, thank you.
Rick Silverman, and he, I remember him from years before, and I just spoke to him on the phone, and I spoke enough to know that he's still got that spirit. And then I met John Nesbitt the other day, and Patricia, and they're just wonderful, open people. And then TR, who's been helping me to get my skiing together, who also plays the mandolin and will be playing with me tonight at the concert. And just a wonderful point of view. I mean, he's working for Telco and skiing, but so he's kind of dealing with all the factors right in the center of it. Very focused, very centered. And Tiny, for instance, who juggled the other night and also wrote an article in the paper. And obviously, like yourself and many other people here, has 2 or 3 jobs or 2 or 3 identities, so that you can, I think, have a chance to experience what is so special about the place and to keep a handle on what it is that's important to you at the same time that you're making ends meet.
Well, I hope that we can all keep that focus in mind. Okay, so how did you get hooked up with TCH this time and with the Mountain Medical to do the show?
Well,
he's doing these shows for the benefit of these 2 nonprofit organizations?
Right. The first benefit was for the emergency rescue.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the other one is for kids who are gifted in skiing to be able to compete and take do the travel
Oh, I didn't know that. Good.
Yeah, because they should all equally have that opportunity, whether they come from more or less wealthy parents. So what the deal was that I wanted to come back to Telluride, and what was discussed was that there would be that I would be a guest of the mountain, as it were, a welcome guest, and that in coming here I wasn't just going to vacation, but that I would be doing some performing that would be turn into some help for the community. I guess there are certain circumstances in which people who are, quote, celebrities come, and it's good for the mountain to have them there. But that wasn't really the sense of what this was. This was really a sense that there was a quid pro quo. There was an exchange of sorts. Peter's coming here to visit us. We're delighted that he's here. As part of his visit, he's going to be doing these musical events. Once I'm on stage, that particular equation completely disappears. What I'm interested in is relating to the people that are there, is sharing what's gone on for 27 and a half years with Peter, Paul, and Mary, and with myself as a performer, in some way that not only are the memories that, with a sense of continuity, reenacted through the songs, but a contemporary sense of what those values in those songs mean today. And that's my work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and to do it with that sensitive an audience that's so willing to participate and laugh and feel close, and in such an extraordinary environment. There's another little place in Spoleto. It's a bigger hall, I think it's about 600-700, where Menotti has a festival each year that the Opera House reminds me of. It's just a remarkable place, and the acoustics are wonderful, and the sense of contact is terrific.
I've just heard over and over how much the people, y'all were all one. You had everyone singing and just feeling like they were best friends with you and really sharing your sentiment with your music and your lyrics. So everybody's pretty pleased with.
Well, I was happy about that too.
That's
I like the way you say, y'all were all one. That's I'm gonna have to write that down. Y'all were all one. A regional way of expressing a thought that I actually, regional being Texas, darling,
Yes.
that I expressed in the song "The River of Jordan," which I say, "We are only one river, we are only one sea, and that river flows through you, and it flows through me. We are only one people, one and the same, all one spirit, all one name. We are the Father, Mother, Daughter, and Son. From the dawn of creation, we are one." It sounds a little idealistic, perhaps, but there are moments in my life, many moments in my life, now, not necessarily all of them in the United States, in which I feel not the sense we are one in this joyful never never land, the sense that we are united in pain, we are united in struggle, we are united somehow worldwide in the necessity for solving problems before the problems totally engulf us. And that necessity puts us in the enviable and unenviable position of having to reach for each other. Fortunately, my life is focused around the sharing of a language that articulates the connection. And if anything is needed in our time, particularly for children, I think, because there is so much that is fearful in the country, in the universe. There is so much divisiveness. There's so much have and have not inequity throughout the world. If there's one thing that we need, as I said, particularly for the children, is a sense of our closeness to one another.
Well, with that, do you have...
Well, we could go on and talk for a long time, but the sense of humor doesn't escape one, nor the sense of the fun of trying to get your skiing better, or kids growing up. It's just that there is something more, and fortunately, the music that I sing really reminds me of that.
Well, it certainly is obvious that you believe in what you sing.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just make words that, draw people. Apparently you are the one drawing the people, not the...
Well, thank you. I think folk music has its own tradition that engaged me. And within that meaning, within that Sigersreder tradition, I found my identity as a performer and a person who has a particular life point of view. I don't think I made it up. It's there for everybody. And I think the reason that folk music had such a profound effect upon the country was the degree to which everybody saw that folk music belonged to all of us in the 1960s. And I think that need is being reawakened. And I think there is a whole new series of movements within the people, within the disenfranchised, within the students, within the thinkers, within the carers, that contradicts the idea that material wealth is the center of our lives, that power and status does rule the roost, which is a point of view to a certain degree that is ancillary to the quote yuppie unquote point of view. It's simply not. It is not a healthy life unless we feel needed and we can give to people. It's not happy. People are happier when they're giving. And that's simply something that is the case.
Well, I hope this resurgence is really happening, because I can remember growing up and thinking, when I grew up, Puff came out when I was like 4, and it was one of the first songs I ever remember. But just during that whole time when I was growing up in the music, I really believed there was a chance for peace.
Yes.
And world love, and I was really in that generation where I really wanted that to happen, and it's now no one even really considers that to be a possibility. I would love to see that consciousness come back.
Well, I think it is, and I think that a person like myself who travels as much as I do can see the degree to which these kinds of feelings and beliefs are being stimulated once again. And I see it also when I travel outside the country. I think in this country what we really need, and we're getting, is the opportunity to take the blinders off and realize how much our lives are connected to other points of view. I've been in El Salvador and Nicaragua. I was in the Philippines. Peter, Paul, and Mary sang there on the first anniversary of their revolution. We were the only Americans to sing there, and the reason we were asked is that they sang Blowing in the Wind and If I Had a Hammer, actually in the circumstance when they faced the tanks unarmed, and when the children put flowers in the muzzles of guns, and if you remember, I mean, this was the great hope at the time, presumed bloodless revolution. Of course, it's in a peck of trouble now, because although Marcos is out, the structures to a large degree remain, and there has not been as much progress as is really necessary. But to sing for 2 million people, and you know which song they really all knew?
What?
And we'd never been there. It was Puff the Magic Dragon. It was the most remarkable. 2 million, we'd never sung for so many people in our lives. I'd sung for 1 million people, 500,000 people. But this was really quite something. And seeing around the world what's going on, and the struggle for self-determination, the struggle for the reevaluation that's going on in many countries, whether it's China or the Soviet Union, of what seemed to be a static situation, necessitates that the United States look outside of our own preconceptions.
That's the truth.
And we must get out of this country to have a sense of where we might go together in harmony with other countries. And these little children looking at that globe, in essence, that's the exercise that we should put the president through, or any other person through, before they go and negotiate. That not to pull the wool over one's eyes and to not see the inheritance of danger, aggression, belligerence, and imperialism that we inherit, but to try to reach, in spite of those historical equations, for something that might allow us to live in some kind of harmony and without the threat of nuclear holocaust. Indeed, I think that the INF Treaty is a step forward, and it would have been very hard for anybody but a Republican administration to have pulled it off. I remember a few weeks ago, I sang five separate events in a row. The first was the INF Treaty event, in which a line of people stretched from the White House to the Soviet Embassy, and simultaneous in Moscow, from the Kremlin to the United States Embassy. And it was the 2 days before the INF Treaty, a discussion between President Reagan and Gorbachev. Then the next day, I sang at the rally in support of the Jewry, or the Jews of Soviet Union, who are not allowed to practice their religion or emigrate to Israel, etc. One of many groups in the Soviet Union that are really constrained very seriously. Mm-hmm. And then the next day I was in New York with Paul and Mary and Bruce Springsteen and Paul Simon and Pete Seeger for the World Hunger Year event at Carnegie Hall, which is a Harry Chapin memorial service at which he got a gold medal posthumously. And then I sang for the new coalition of Freeze and Sane, the two most powerful peace organizations in the country, nationwide organizations that had united, and it was the 30th anniversary of I think it was of Sane, and it was wonderful. I have to tell you, it was amazing. I sang the song when I was in high school that I sang, the first peace song I remember. I'm gonna lay down my sword and shield down by, and I saw some of those people had been in this movement for over 30 years.
Man,
and they were just, oh my God. Well, they were in it for 40 years or more. I'm talking about Another Mother for Peace when it was organized. Next to them, I mean, I was just a kid, you know. And then another night for Nika Network that sends down, Technica, that sends technical people, along with people from all over the world, down to Nicaragua to help Nicaragua to find some economic stability, despite the fact that it has been the consistent policy of the United States not only to fund the Contra war until the recent vote. Hopefully that will be stopped from my political perspective, but also just to strangle the country economically, which I believe is a self-fulfilling prophecy to drive it into the arms of the Soviet Union point of view, which is no longer the Soviet Union witness. I mean, it's so complicated, and we can discuss the political realities of it ad infinitum. But the point I was making is that my life now is really, in a sense, as active and more active than it ever was, and that Peter, Paul, and Mary are not simply a memory, and that when I sing here in Telluride, it's not simply a return to the 60s. It's a very active point of view that relates to what we're all involved in today. And I never have the sense that I'm a bit of nostalgia. I know that these songs evoke many memories, but we all have our memories and we all have our present commitments. Mm-hmm. And I think that the music that I sing is timeless.
It is definitely timeless. There's no question about that. Well, we are really lucky to have you here, and I hope just this little interview will get to some people, And
All right, thank
your
you.
music will get to some people. It's gotten to me.
Thank you.
I feel good.
Thank you, I do too.
Thank you for
Thanks,
talking with me, Peter.
You betcha.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, see you.
We'll see y'all next week, I hope. And I hope everybody comes and sees Peter tonight. Get your inspiration to do the right thing. Bye-bye.